Good evening, Shuko and Tin Toy fans. This is the Tin Meister with an episode about the GESCHA Sixmobil and its repair. So the GESCHA number 557 Sixmobil is a very popular collectible car made in Western Germany about 1953 up to about 1965. I have two Sixmobiles I'm going to show you how to refurbish today. And one is a brown car and one is a red or burgundy car. Let's take a look. So here's the brown car, and we're going to take a look at the bottom of it because there's a couple things you need to know. First of all, the car will do 6 different operations, and that's why it's called a Sixmobil, obviously. So some people don't understand the operation of the car, and they think their car is broken. So let's make sure we know what we're talking about. That lever A needs to be pushed forward and held forward as you pull out on lever B, the round disc. And that disc can be turned to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, depending on what operation you want. On the left-hand side, you can see there's 6 different diagrams, and those are the 6 different operations of the car. So some of you might think your car is broken, but really all it needs is to be handled and operated in the correct manner. So pull that thing forward and turn it, and you will be very pleasantly surprised. So let's get down to the meat of the matter. We're going to start taking this car apart. So first of all, you have to take those little tabs, there's 4 of them, and bend those up straight so you can get the body off. But the next thing you need to do after you bend those tabs up is take the bumpers off. So let's take a look at how you do that. So there's the bumper on one of the cars, and you can see it's a little tab that goes around that holds it in place, a metal tab. So you need to get something in there to pry it out. Probably a screwdriver or a little pick or something to get it started. So you take that screwdriver and you bend the tabs back. There's 2 on each bumper. And once you get the bumpers off, then you can remove the body from the chassis. Okay, so let's talk about the bumpers. So here's the bumper, and there's the tab that you need to bend back. There's 1 on each side. Only bend them back far enough to get it off of the car. So if you find that a tab is broken or you break one by mistake, it's not the end of the world. You can buy some soft metal, thin soft metal, and solder a new tab on. So let me tell you a little bit about the bumpers because there's several kinds of bumpers on these cars. So here is one type of bumper, and notice that it has these slots in the front. Those slots are for little bumper guards, which I don't have any of those, but they did exist at one time. And you might have noticed that this particular bumper has a scallop effect on the front bumper. And I think these are the oldest ones that came with the Sixmobil. Here's another type of bumper, I think with a later model of the Sixmobil. Doesn't have those slots, and it doesn't have that scallop effect. So from time to time in this video, you might see some photos that I've taken of a GESCHA Auto Fox car, and some of these bumpers came from that car. They're very similar cars. Eventually I'll do a video about the Auto Fox car, but you can tell the car that has the wire out the back is an Auto Fox. I'll mention briefly about hubcaps and wheel covers. So the photograph here shows wheel covers that came on the earliest of the Sixmobil cars, as far as my research goes. And then we're going to see one of our cars, the brown car, doesn't have any hubcaps or wheel covers. Here's what it should look like. This is what an Auto Fox car looks like with the same hubcaps. I do have a set of those hubcaps in my collection, which I will use to upgrade the brown car. Okay, now let's take a look at the chassis. It's quite simple, actually. There is the spring mechanism. There is the slider from the other side. And there's the brake. Pretty easy. And there is the axle that is used on the round disc. And the front is the steering mechanism. So really, it's a pretty simple chassis. So the first thing you want to do is take that spring off. And that's about all you can do to this chassis unless you want to start taking the rivets out. So, and usually you don't have to do much of anything because they're so simple. Like maybe you have to replace a spring or something, but it's pretty darn simple. So here's some other pictures of the chassis for you to look at. There's the brake, and there's the steering mechanism. There's the spring that should be taken off to clean the chassis, and there's one of the rivets that holds the motor to the chassis itself. So we're going to remove the surface rust from these two chassis by using Loctite's Naval Jelly. We use this product because we can apply it to one side of the metal without affecting the other side, because the other side has lithography on it, and the Naval Jelly can dull that lithography. So as you probably know if you've been listening to my videos for a while, I'm a big fan of evaporust. But don't dip parts that have lithography into the evaporust. So anyway, we need to get that Naval Jelly off of our parts, so we take some warm water and we wash it off. You can see I've got it into a deep sink there. I used to do it in the kitchen, but my wife got very upset, so now I'm down in the laundry room. So now that the parts are wet, we have to blow dry them, and I use a compressor out in my garage to air dry them all. Once they're dry, I take some oil and a little brush, and I oil all the chassis, all the exposed parts of the chassis. So before too long now, we've got to put that spring back on, and we'll oil that as well. I use my paintbrush to get in all the nooks and crannies. Here we're testing out and exercising all the little parts. So you wind up the motor, put some oil in it, wind it up again, so on and so forth. If you find that some of the parts have a little bit of rust on them, you can take some fine steel wool and the oil and gently rub that rust off. I've included a few extra photos here so you can take a look at this chassis once it's all cleaned up. So here's a couple shots of that spring that operates the lever A on the other side. And here's the steering mechanism. So now that everything is oiled, we let it sit overnight and some of the oil will evaporate, which is exactly what we want. So now that the chassis is just about done, let's take a look at the body. We got to reassemble the body. So let's inspect it first. We're looking inside the body and we're going to see if there's anything that's bent or needs some work. So what I'm doing here is I'm straightening the rocker panels. And one of the first things you look at when you see a toy car is how straight it is along the rocker panels. So I have a couple tools I use, actually 3 or 4 tools I use to straighten out that rocker panel. So even the red car needs to be straightened. In fact, almost all toys need to be straightened along that rocker panel. So you can also take off all the shiny metal parts and polish them up and put them back on the car if you wish. If the car is in good shape, pretty good shape, I wouldn't necessarily take all those parts off. But if some of them are bent or you really need polishing, you could take them off. It also gives you an opportunity to really clean up the body right down to the nitty-gritty. Now the windows can also be removed, although it's a little bit difficult to bend those tabs up and get those out without breaking them. But it's possible, and you could also replace them with like material. You can probably find that at a hobby shop. So now it's time to clean the body. You can actually clean it with warm water and soap, and then dry it off like we talked about before. And then I use Meguiar's Cleaner Wax, as I've been using it for years, and I'm really happy with it. Now I have used other products, and I still continue to use other products, such as rubbing compound and that sort of thing. But that's a subject for another video. And finally, here we are at reassembly. Yay for us. We've got everything cleaned up, and we're going to go forward. So the first thing is we want to take off any extra oil we may have found in the car, get in the nooks and crannies, and then we will put on those hubcaps I talked about earlier. So if the tires are supple enough, you can take them off the wheels and it makes it easier to put on the hubcaps. But if you can't take off the tires, you can still mount those hubcaps, as I'm showing here. So here is the project, the brown car with new hubcaps installed. So now that all that is done, we want to mount the body onto the chassis. So we want to make sure one last time that those tabs are bent up straight so the body sits down perfectly onto the chassis. So we want to wind up the motor to compress the spring so that the body can fit onto the chassis without touching the inner part of the body. So we're going to put the body onto the chassis, make it sure it fits snugly, and we'll make sure that the work we did on the rocker panels is straight so that when we turn it over, everything lines up and there are no air gaps between the body and the chassis. And now, before we mount the rear bumper, let's take a look at how the body should fit into the chassis. Notice how the red painted body fits into the black part of the chassis. It fits down into the chassis, not on the outside. So again, we start with the rear bumper and we fit it correctly and bend those tabs in, those metal tabs in. And that's the way it should look. Now we look at the front bumper. Notice how the body fits inside of the chassis. The red part goes inside and not on the outside of the chassis. And that's how the front bumper should look when it's done. And we bend it in with a popsicle stick if we can and send it home with a screwdriver. Finally, you have those 4 tabs. The last thing you do is you press those down with your popsicle stick. And after that is done, you are just about done. And all you have left to do is testing, inspection, and completion. So you want to polish up that car one more time and take a look at it and make sure everything's working perfectly. And then you are done, and you've done a great job. Except for one thing, you forgot your GESCHA key. You got to get that key. You got to find one. Well, that's it, folks. That's it for the GESCHA Sixmobil repair. I hope you enjoyed it, and come back for another video by the Tin Meister. Talk to you soon, Shuko and Tin Toy fans.